Yeah, but good asset management is obviously a blend of the product that you offer and the requirements of your customers. Oh, but how do you get the right line between the two?
From my end of the world, I've done a lot of this over the years. You've got this constant struggle between the requirements that a client passes on to you, or an internal stakeholder says, you've got to manage my asset in these ways, or you've got to have certain like prompts or notifications or a diary of how you manage an asset. There's got to be something that's coming from the client. But obviously you're an asset manager, you provide a service, you deal with cases or projects or assets, whatever they might be. You've got your ways of doing that you've built up for years of experience. And so you have a constant sort of toss and pull between, you want to keep the client happy and meet what they do, which might be very much bespoke workflow. But you've got your core processes of how you do well at what you do. And really, I think that I've seen that being quite a, you have to get a very flexible workflow platform. You can't just have a platform where, with the best will in the world, people like me, goes out to a lot of developers, go and build me some workflow, off you go. And then that's that. If you've got different client requirements, that workflow's got to be flexible. It's got to be, you've got to have the ability for the business to take that on board and actually do the things they need to do, not just what a developer needs to go and do for them at the beginning of a project. And so your technology's got to be way more engagement based, and got to be way more a two-way collaboration between a technology expert and the end client, because the requirements should, are going to change, and they hopefully don't change dramatically, but they're going to be dealing with not just their business process, but the requirements to change their business process, potentially based on different types of asset, different clients, different types of instruction that we want to do on an asset. And so you've got to have that flexibility in the platform. And I think, I think a lot of people in my world, in the CRM world, we've used a lot of Dynamics workflow over the years. It's pretty good, but is it good enough for non-developers to run with? It's okay, it has its limitations. You've got to come up with increasing systems that allow that flexibility. Me and my team have done that over the years. You turning Dynamics into a flexible asset management platform, but then you look at what's here now in the sort of last few years of Power Automate and Flow. There's huge amount more options there, and again, you're in that territory of not just blending the client requirements, what we do, but blending the power, the really increasingly powerful tools we get through the cloud and from suppliers like Microsoft, with what people like me can do in terms of opening those opportunities up to how we want to use them.
Thank you, Paul. And I'll be pushing forward a poll question now to our audience. Do you feel like having the ability to access the right skills and having the citizen developers in the business is an important thing? So there are a few options here. So I'm starting the poll now. And my next question goes to Masoud. Masoud, can you tell us, at the beginning of that process, how do you set those requirements? What does an internal champion of driving that change within the business, such as yourself, needs to look at before you go set them forward to someone like Paul?
Yeah. So at the beginning, what I try to do is just to document the current way of working. So before to change it, move it to the new way of working, you need to understand what's the current way of working. To our surprise, majority of businesses out there is not always well documented, because the way of working changes. You cannot keep track of that, how you do things. You have a document version of 2 years ago, and since then a lot has changed. So that's the first thing to do, just to document what is the existing process. And then you should look at your future. Where the company needs to be 5 years from now or 10 years from now. Then together with the team, we should define what do we expect this process to be in 10 years from now. So we move from this as-is scenario to the to-be scenario. And basically, then we should communicate that to-be scenario to the technology expert, in this case, Paul and his team. This is where we want to go. But there is always a challenge, as Paul mentioned, because technology expert knows what is possible. It's the toolbox of technology, but doesn't know exactly what is the process needed, what is the nice to have, what is the must have from the business side. And from the business side, you know what you want, but you don't know what is inside the toolbox. Even there is some good toolbox, you don't know it exists. Yeah, You don't know even a screwdriver exists. For that case, you ask for a hammer. But if you know a screwdriver exists, you ask for that. So like a simple example. So there is always is not a one-off job that you communicate your requirements and developer develops your solution. So it needs continuous alignment throughout development of the project. Otherwise, you ask for a unicorn and you receive a horse. So it should be a continuous collaboration between the business and the technology expert to make sure you land to the right solution.